I'm not intimidating. You're intimidated. There's a difference. I'm not mean nor aggressive. I'm honest and assertive, and that makes you uncomfortable. And it's not me that makes you uncomfortable. My presence challenges your comfort. I will not be less for you to feel better about yourself. And that was posted by Build Alpha. And I actually reposted it. And I said, label me whatever you want. My job is not to pander to your mediocrity. Oh, Lord. I didn't actually know that I would be recording this episode to go up on Tuesday. But I got a couple of dilemmas, and one in particular really, really bothered me. And it bothered me because my energy and my spirit was telling me that it needed to be addressed as soon as possible. There was a sense of urgency in the words. And I thought, do you know something? I need to just take a step back and process this particular dilemma, and I'll come back to it. And that's exactly what I did. And I thought, you know what? Whilst I'm kind of still in the throes of that particular dilemma, I should actually do a dilemma episode. Now, it doesn't go above my head that October is Black History Month, and I had an episode to go out the last Tuesday of October. However, it will go out in 2 weeks' time, and it is with one of the co-founders of the Wedding Coordinators, and we discuss as Black women our experience in business, balancing motherhood. And at the time of recording it, I was, I believe, 6 or 7 months pregnant, and I pre-recorded it, and I definitely wanted to wait until I would release it. I thought Black History Month was a great time, but I'm just going to reshuffle the order of some of these episodes. I have pre-recorded some episodes. I think I've pre-recorded 4 or 5 episodes, and that's also to continue a lot of the consistency. I used to post weekly, and for a majority of the podcast episodes, they are weekly. That's why there's so many. But obviously life, and I felt that it was really important to give people opportunity to catch up, and also new listeners the opportunity to not be kind of thrown off by how many. So, and also I think for me as well, I felt like there was this pressure every week, and as soon as I feel like that, I know to take a step back. But I just had to just be real with myself in terms of like my businesses and all the things that I have going, now being a new mum, and the podcast is now bi-weekly, and sometimes it isn't bi-weekly because I'm a mum first. So that being said, when my daughter does go to bed early or earlier, I take the opportunity to pre-record episodes, and that's exactly what I've done. So there are quite a few, five episodes. I did 4 or 5 episodes, basically banked to release, and I know you'll really love them and enjoy them. But yeah, this is going to be a dilemma episode. There's 2 dilemmas in particular, and I want to also be really clear about something. You know, when you guys send me your dilemmas via email, I take them really seriously. And I see it as a responsibility, especially when you come to me with a dilemma. It's because, number 1, you know I'm going to be straight. Number 2, you know that there will be a balanced view of how I respond, and I will always base it on the information that you share with me. Now, sometimes I may go back to you before an episode is released to ask you some additional questions that would allow me to have a fuller picture and give you the best advice I can. I always caveat this by saying, you don't have to take my advice, right? I am experienced in the working world. I have had very difficult situations in the world of work, and I've shared them and captured them in previous podcast episodes. And I will sit here and tell you, to be strategic in the world of work is so difficult, especially when you feel like you're a moving target and you have a target on your back. When you are seeking to enforce something or raise something, you inevitably place the target on your back. And I've said this previously before, but I think it's important I say this again. But that shouldn't be the reason why you don't advocate for yourself, and it shouldn't be the reason why you feel too intimidated to say anything. You see, we're living in a society now where I think a lot of conversations have been brought to the forefront. And I think that when I was growing up, there were certain conversations that were never had. And to be in the era of social media and also in the era of sharing information, I think it's also important that you put into practice the things you learn from the podcast. There is no point learning to sit silent. They say closed mouths do not get fed. But equally, those who do not advocate for themselves do not get heard. And it's about being strategic in how you do that. And I've always been about that. I think that there are exceptional situations where you just have to go in hot. But for the most part, I think taking a measured approach is really important, especially when you are being triggered or even targeted in the workplace. I've always said to you, HR are just to be used. I don't see any value in HR, in human resources. I don't. I actually really don't. I think they're just to be used for what you need them for, to extrapolate information or to use them as a smokescreen or as a bridge to get you what you want. But I'm yet to hear of any HR department being, because effectively they work for the organisation. The interest of the organisation becomes paramount and often over yours. And your relationship with your manager, who's really lovely and you get on really well and you WhatsApp and all this shit, is just that. It's bullshit. Because when push comes to shove, your line manager is also an employee of the company. And she also has to manage up. And I say manage up, manage herself, but manage and be strategic up. So you can't expect them to then sacrifice themselves for you. It's also important to understand with these dilemma episodes that it takes a lot of guts to be vulnerable and share a dilemma. And whilst every single person that sends a dilemma, their anonymity is always protected, the reality is you still have to be vulnerable enough to revisit certain situations. And I completely place emphasis on the fact that it's just not easy. But you know that at the point in which you come to me, you're looking for some type of solution or a suggested approach to something to achieve an end goal. Because that's what I'm about here. I'm about the elevation of black women in the world of work. Those who choose, and it's a choice, those who choose success and to define what success is. Not everybody, and I'm saying this because it's the truth, because that's what we do here, we tell the truth. Not everybody has access to success. Some people have access to mediocrity, they're just mediocre. I call them, what's that paint colour? Was it magnolia? Some people are magnolia. And the world of work needs magnolia. And the world of work needs people to be mediocre. The problem that we have is there are some people who have committed to mediocrity, but yet sees other people wanting success and they have a problem with it. But you yourself have chosen to be mediocre. And that is okay. But what I'm never ever going to do is sit here and bullshit you and sell you a dream. No, darling, I'm not. And I tell you why. Number one, I don't have time. Bullshit stinks. And also as well, I just kind of feel like we're all trying to get to the bag. We're all trying to see success. And we're all trying to live peaceful lives, most of us, and try to navigate work peacefully. I think the one thing that I recognize about the world of work is you could want and pursue peace, but unfortunately, if you want to achieve more than just the standard, you are not always going to have a peaceful experience. And if you want to make money, if you want to understand how to navigate to make money and to grow in an organization or just in your career, unfortunately, it's going to ruffle feathers. And it's going to ruffle feathers because some people generally do not want black women to succeed. And it's really just as simple as that. Yeah. And the idea, I think it's because they think that if we succeed, there's going to be like a coup and we're going to just take over. But my thing has always been, what is it about us as black women that makes you so uncomfortable? What is it about your mediocrity that is made uncomfortable? And what you do is you transfer that inability to accept your mediocrity onto us. And I will literally sit here and tell you, as a black woman, I really don't give a shit about pandering to white privilege, fragility, pandering to people who just are so emotionally damaged. They come to work and then they flaunt a power that they just don't have in their own homes. I personally don't have time for that. You are going to speak to me with respect. Yeah, I used to be that person in my 20s that thought that you are allowed to speak to me like shit because you are my manager, and you are allowed to be curt, you are allowed to be rude, and you're allowed to shout at me because you're my manager. And I'm sitting here telling you now, whether you are entry level, whether you're a junior member of staff new to the workplace, whether you're well seasoned, whether you're senior, or whether you're just middle management, or whatever position you are in, respect is mutual. That's number one. Number two, you are nobody's child, and this company is not your father's business. People cannot just talk to you anyhow. You should demand respect because people expect respect from you. If you do not respect me, I will not respect you. It's really that simple. If you do not treat me with respect, I don't give a shit if you are the CEO of this diarrhea company. I don't give a shit if you are sleeping with every single shareholder. You are going to treat me with respect. Working for you does not make me any less than. But what we are going to do is we're going to create a working environment where I actually feel healthy enough to come to work, because I feel like a lot of environments are intrinsically toxic. I remember those times I used to go into work with this knot in my stomach and I felt physically sick because I genuinely hated where I worked. But I never had that understanding that I could change my situation. And I could change my situation by dealing with the undercurrent and the underbelly of what made me uncomfortable. Was it a manager? Was it working with someone? Or was it just that I didn't want to work in this particular place? I always felt in my 20s quite trapped. And I felt quite trapped because when I would, say, start a role, I never really kept my options open. I never really allowed myself to think about anything outside the role that I had accepted. You see, I had this displaced loyalty that made absolutely no sense, yeah? And I never looked at work as transactional. And as soon as my mindset changed, I then became happier within myself. And then I became a lot more in control of my career. I became a lot more confident to say no. I became a lot more confident to walk away. And I became a lot more confident to create opportunities. And those opportunities came by keeping the doors open rather than closing them shut because I had a new role. That being said, I want to move on to the dilemmas. And this dilemma is called... compromised training. Hello Toya, I hope this email finds you well, and congratulations to both you and Kay on your beautiful daughter. I hope you see this dilemma in time. I joined my current organisation nearly 7 months ago and passed probation using your masterclass, so your course. 2 months ago, an accredited project management course was advertised to staff, paid for by my employer. To cut a long story short, I enrolled and scheduled my week-long training session. Fast forward 2 months later, the head of our department, a white male, scheduled a away day for our team during the same week of my training and in full knowledge of it. He even mentioned that it clashed with my training during one of our team meetings, but he couldn't find any other dates. It wasn't a biggie for me, and he didn't make my inability to attend an issue. Yesterday, the same head of department sent me a Teams message out of nowhere saying that he's eager for me to attend. I reverted and said my training was booked 2 months prior. There are no more employer-funded sessions in the foreseeable future, and taking a day out for the away day will sabotage my performance in the exam, as it's an accredited course. I also suggested setting time aside with my direct line manager to rehash key takeaways from the away day without having to take a day out of training, which seemed like a reasonable alternative. Furthermore, the training offers material value to the organisation when compared to the away day. So I was confused by this sudden insistence. Instead, he's pushing back and wants to discuss my need to attend further next week. Unfortunately, my immediate line manager, also a white male, does not want to ruffle feathers, but admits it's not the proper way of doing things. He's afraid to push back, so I'm here trying to defend myself. My initial thought is to approach one of the directors, who is a woman, and engage our diversity network to advocate on my behalf. Some guidance on how to tackle this would be much appreciated. I've got a week to turn it around. Thanks again for all the work you do protecting black women in professional settings through education. I'll continue to hold you up in prayer. God bless. Kind regards. So I'm now going to read my response to her, and then we're going to look at her dilemma in a bit more detail. So I said hi, I said her name. Thanks for your email. I didn't want to wait till Tuesday, given the sensitive nature. Firstly, I want to thank you for being honest and open in your dilemma. Sis, this is called career sabotage. How can anyone in their right logical mind prioritize a team meeting away day over someone's academic work-related progress? This is what you do know. Number one, your head of department is deliberately seeking to force you to disregard your progression, even though he knows there are no further employee-funded sessions. Number two, he knew in advance of planning the team meeting that it would clash with your course. Number three, he is not open to compromise and is seeking to use his position to strong-arm you. One would call this intimidation. Number four, your direct line manager is spineless. And number five, if you pursue attending your course, it will put a target on you. But not attending the course is you choosing to prioritize his pride over your progression. The reality is you need to prioritize yourself. This is a classic situation where you need to subtly pull for the race card and also shame the devil. I suggest an email to the head of department, your line manager, and the director of diversity, as you've referenced in your initial email, and CCing HR. Yes, HR, because this is a situation where your head of department is using his power to oppress you. It is straight to the point and direct, and it has to be because your head of department is seeking to devalue you by robbing you of an opportunity to academically advance yourself. I would expect more, but given your description of him, I'm not surprised. I'm sure he is skilled, but the thought of a black woman wanting to do the same clearly unnerves him. If you were a white woman, you could have leaned into your fragility and cried, and that would be enough for him to back off. But as a black woman, we are not afforded such fragility, and in any case, I do not understand why a team meeting takes precedence over a study week. You can amend as you see fit, but this is the tone I think you should take, which calls into question his motives and also the suggested CC. He would now have to rethink twice. So I then drafted her an email that I suggested that she sends, as I referenced earlier, that it should be to the head of department, it should be to the line manager on the email trail, the director of diversity, and CCHR. So here goes. Dear Head of Department, as you are aware and were aware in advance of planning the team meeting away day, I have an accredited project management course to attend, which is a week long on X date. On X date, you sent me a message, the objective of which was to convince me to prioritize the team meeting over my learning and development, which in turn will enhance and expand my knowledge in my role and progression within the company. Also, I consider the lack of diversity, black females in project management, which is also my motivation of applying and completing the course. I am disappointed that I'm being pressured by you to disregard the course and attend the one-day team meeting in its place. I had even suggested as a compromise setting time aside with my direct line manager after the team meeting. after the week-long course to rehash key takeaways from the away day, which seemed like a reasonable alternative. However, this is not satisfactory to you. You are now further requesting a sit-down to discuss why I now need to quit the course to attend the team meeting, and do not think that this is appropriate. And I'm uncomfortable with having to defend why I'm attending this course, which you knew was already diarised before scheduling the team day. Whilst I do not expect the team meeting date to be changed to accommodate my non-attendance, I do expect that my want and need to advance my academic knowledge to be respected, and that my head of department would support me in my learning and development. Kind regards. Now, I'm going to be really, really clear here. This head of department is actually attempting to abuse his power. And he is doing it in a way that is so aggressive, because he is forcing her into accepting missing her course, and he knows the repercussions. I mean, if you have a week long course, taking one day out, he's not considering the fact that she may not pass her exam. That may be a critical session. And what is so important about a team day, I'm really sorry to say this, yeah, team days are bullshit. I've been on these team away day, team building, and it's all shit, because the reality is a lot of these managers are crap anyway. Let's be honest. If you want to go on a team away day, no one's going to be honest and tell you that your manager's a bully, this person's sleeping with this one, this manager. No one's going to have that type of real conversation that would be needed to build teams, like the real talk. But what is actually really concerning about what she's written here is nothing he's asking her to do is in her best interest. And he has planted the seed of being uncomfortable. There comes a time when you can't be afraid of confrontation. I'm so sorry. You see that word confrontation, it is very problematic when it is weaponized in a way that is so detrimental to somebody advocating for themselves. So when someone advocates for themselves, oh, you're being confrontational. But I'm going to say this. What does the word confront? It's to confront an issue that is creating a problem. Yeah? And there's no way around it. This young lady has to confront this issue, because the only way she can avoid it is by taking a day off. But then I think to myself, if he's able to coerce her to take a day off from her week-long course, then what he's basically doing is bullying her into demeaning the importance of this course. He doesn't respect this course, and he damn well doesn't respect her. This is about battle of the ego, his ego. He wants to lay down the law. He is the head of department, and he should know better. Yeah? So when we talk about this race card, it's often used as weaponized by non-black people. Whenever we speak about race, we're using the race card. And I'm going to say this to you. My subtle mention of diversity is the race card. You see, sometimes we have to take what they use to weaponize and subjugate us, and we need to use it as a weapon back. We need to understand that we have to have a toolkit. It's almost like we have to have a professional toolkit of how to deal with these people, and that is the truth. And the race card is a card that is required in a professional toolkit. But it's the subtle use of that race card. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, are you dealing with me like this because I'm a black woman? If I was a white woman, would you do? That is a race card too. But we're talking about the subtle approach of laying seeds. So the reference in the email that I drafted to her about the lack of diversity of project management, managers being black women, is basically saying, I have a motivation to do this course, not just because it advances me, but I also recognise, and you should acknowledge, the lack of diversity of black women in project management. And the reason I've also mentioned that is she's also going to be CCing the director of diversity. So you see where we're going here. If you want to find allies, sometimes you need to strong arm people, and using the things that will motivate them to fight for you. Sometimes you just lay the seeds and let people fight for you. And therefore, sometimes you don't even have to fight for yourself, because that email basically lays down the law. And there's this thing about asking for permission. And I'm going to say this. How you position something places you in a position of ask or places you in a position of this is what it is. So, for example, if I had a doctor's appointment, I wouldn't go to my boss and say, can I take a day off? I would say, I'm going to be taking Tuesday off for a doctor's appointment. It's very different to saying, can I take a day off on Tuesday? Because you're giving people the option to say yes or no. That's not your choice to make. As an adult, we get to tell you how we're living our life. And I'm taking Tuesday. Oh, you can't take Tuesday off because we have a meeting. Unfortunately, my health, I have to prioritize my health and my mental health over your meeting or over this. It depends how you position things. And I have a podcast on this about how you position certain things. And this email is basically telling him, I'm going on this week-long course and I'm not taking the day off for your team meeting. And I've given you a compromise of speaking to my line manager about the key takeaways. That's the compromise. And if you're not happy with that, then that's kind of up to you. Now, it places her in a really difficult position, I'm not going to lie, because that's her head of department at the end of the day. But do you compromise your learning and development that you can take on to other companies, you could take on anywhere? Do you compromise that for somebody's self-inflated ego? And the answer is no. In this economy, an organisation is paying for a week-long project management course. Do you know how much some courses cost? And you're cramming everything in 1 week, and then you will sit exam, Abby. So if an organisation is willing to pay, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth, and you're not having to pay them back. Girl, you better do that course. You better do that course well. And you don't need to be worrying in that week and have that built up anxiety because this head of department is making you feel as though you're going to be in trouble. It's that whole, being a junior member of staff against a head of department. Like, I'm going to be, it's giving very high schoolish. Some organizations give very playground. And what happens in the playground is some people are going to bust their head, or some people are going to graze their knee, or some people are just going to walk away with detention. You see me? I don't walk away with a grazed knee, a bust head, or detention. I go home after the school day. Okay. Where is it? You see, I could have gone in, because where is it in your learning development policy that says I must go to team meetings? Listen, you see, this is what I'm trying to say. There's levels to this. I can go to level 4 real quick, but I don't need to bazooka him. There's no point bazookaing him, because the people you have on CC is enough to take what he wants to do in the dark and deal with it in the light. You see, a lot of these managers, they want to fight you in the dark. They want to oppress you in the dark. When you switch the light on, they start running like cockroaches. Cockroaches on a Monday morning. So, for me personally, I said this. I said, my dear, if you want to water it down, up to you. But this is how I would deal with it. Because if you want to shame the devil, you have to call out their shit. And you know what I loved about this young lady's email? Very logical, very methodical. She's smart, very smart. She had a conversation with her line manager, spineless. How many of us have spineless line managers? Please raise your hand. Yeah? Spineless. And the thing is, when you have a spineless line manager, you do not have a coat of protection. So when she says she's having to fight for herself, I said, my heart just dropped on the floor. I said, no, my dear, we are fighting for you. We are fighting for you. What do you mean? You have to defend yourself. And the thing is, it's her choice of words were interesting because she says she has to defend herself. And I was thinking, but baby, defend yourself. What? You've done nothing wrong. But that's how we feel, isn't it? Constantly having to defend us and our need to progress. We're constantly having to defend it. Be it that you were promised training courses in an interview, suddenly there's no budget, or suddenly you're having to beg or remind them and they're making excuses. the need as black women that we feel in the workplace to constantly defend our decisions, defend our reactions, defend our facial expressions, defend our shirt, defend our knickers, defend our vaginas. I'm tired. And it's not because of the low iron. I'm tired because history continues to repeat itself. But this head of department has entered the last bus stop. This is the terminal and you will get off the motherfucking bus. Okay, sir. Because sis has to go on a week-long course. And no day shall be missed. No day shall be missed. Sis, you know if you want to take it to level 2, you know what you'll do? Once you finish your course and you've passed your course, you send an email to all of those on copy, thanking them for all their support, that you've passed your course. Please find a certificate attached. Oh, listen, when we're shaming the devil, we're taking the devil to the cliff. Yeah, that's what we do. Me, I'm mad. Because these people, this is, they don't understand. Can you imagine that this young lady is now having anxiety, anticipating a conversation that she's now having again? Because he said he wants to there was a word that she's, let me find that word, because that word they sent me, that one sent me off. I need to find it, I'm sorry. Yes, that's it. When he sent a Teams message, do you know how aggressive it is to send a Teams message from the head of department that he's eager for her to attend? In other words, replace the word with eager. He wants her to attend without fail. Is he mad? Is he what? Is he mad? Is he having alcohol in his coffee? Is everything okay? Is he eager for his wife to be liberated from his shit? What kind of nonsense is that? What is all of this nonsense? Sis, all I'm going to say to you is this. You are the architect of your career. I have a podcast episode very early on in the podcast. I think it's episode 2 or 3. Your manager is not the key to your success. And that is what it is. This young lady has managed to navigate to a point whereby she has a funded course. Do you know what it is to do an accredited funded course in project management? Do you know where project management can take you? Yeah? And this man is basically trying to sabotage her ability to pass. If you want to call it what it is. So when she called this episode compromise training, it's actually career sabotage. That's what it is. You see me, you see if it was me, the guy is lucky. You see in the subject line, my dear, I didn't even tell you what to put in the subject line. I think in the subject line, I would put training sabotage. Me, I'm mad, because some of these people, when you meet them with madness, suddenly they know how to pipe down. But I think in the subject box, what you should put there is accredited training versus team away day. That's what I'd write, because that's what it is, isn't it? This man has pitted them off against each other. That's what I'd write. But I will leave that to you about what you want to put in the subject box. But you have to set the tone. Because you're not asking permission in this letter, you are telling him. And if after this he still wants to have a conversation, I suggest you take somebody into that conversation with you. And you do a summary after that conversation. Because after this type of email, no conversation needs to be had. In fact, he needs to be sending you a Teams message to say, thank you for your email received. I wish you every luck and success in your week-long course. That's what he needs to be saying. So I sent it to this young lady, and 90 minutes past 8 the next day, which is today actually, in the morning, she sent me a message. She said, hello Toya, wow, thank you so much. And then she had a crying emoji, and she said, I'll keep you posted on how things progress next week. Watch this space, kind regards. Girl, this needs to progress to you going to your course and having the free mind to pass, because this is the other bit that people don't consider. You do these things to people, that like this young lady, but she needs to be able to go into that course with a free mind. But instead, you've got this man pulling his trousers down and showing us his ass crack. That's some bullshit. I'm here to tell you that you are allowed to progress. You are allowed. Give yourself permission to progress. Because you see these people, they would rather have us sitting in one position for over 10 years. while they progress. He's got his academics, he's got his accolades, he's got his progression. You should want to see people progress. And the problem that we're having, and the reason why we're not seeing many black female CEOs or many black females in very senior positions in organizations, is because there's always somebody like this head of department emphasizing these bullshit team meetings and sabotaging a black woman's progression. Because it's bigger than just the organization. She can take this course to other organizations. She could then become a project manager. Janet, do you understand the domino effect of what he's trying to do here? And the worst part of it is, for me, as this young lady said, you know, they don't have any dates or any plans for any further funded courses, which tells me that she was looking at maybe not doing the course for a week to go to the team meeting and then maybe doing a future funded course if they're doing one in 2024, 2025. Absolutely not. And luckily for her, they're not doing any other courses. But even if they were, my question is, why should you change your plans when he knew it was already in the diary 2 months prior? Which means he knew there was a possibility you will not attend. So since he knew there was a possibility you will not attend, and now you're not attending, he's now telling you he's eager for you to... I'm eager for him to have some common sense, and I'm eager for him to zip his trousers up, because he's showing us his bum. And I'm eager for him to actually understand that, which he does, that this form of microaggression, it's laced in your need as a man to use your power to oppress this woman. And I'm seeing it from a discriminatory perspective because she's a woman. We don't allow me to look at the race aspect. This is Black History Month and you're being stupid. You know what I would have done as well? In my email signature, I would have found something online that says Happy Black History Month. I'll put it in my email signature. Then when I'm sending this email, you will see the signature there. Listen, if you want to deal with these people, it's the subtle things that make the loudest noise. There's no point saying this is Black History Month and da 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 da. These people don't understand because these the same people are putting on black squares. They're full of shit. Can you see what I mean by being strategic? I literally am that. You know something? I feel like there's other marginalized communities and they amplify their voices in a way that as the black community, we need to sit down and take notes. We don't amplify our voices in a strategic way to yield results. And this is why, for me, part of kind of my mission and my ethos for Toya Talks is about using what we can, using what we have in our briefcase of strategies to grow, learn, and accelerate and access success. That's what I'm about, being strategic. Sometimes you have to go with the big guns, but sometimes it's the subtle. So, for example, she mentioned about the director who's a woman and diversity network. Listen, I'm happy for you to use me as the token for the purposes of this issue I have. I will copy you in, and you see the line about the lack of diversity of black women in project management. Yeah, I'm buzzing her in. You see, did you guys used to watch wrestling? WWCW or WWE, yeah, and they tap someone in and I'm tapping her in. Because you see what happens is, when you understand how to be strategic in the world of work and you tap people in, you know what it means? It means that you're not having to then fight that good fight. There's a conversation that's going to be had with all these managers and HR, and HR is going to tell him, this is not the cross that you want to die on. This isn't the cross that you want to die on. And sometimes you see these department heads, yeah, they act like they're untouchable because no one's touched them. This email is gonna touch him. You know what? When someone's touch, it's gonna touch him. He's gonna start twitching. You know that one there, start twitching, and then he's gonna put his out of office on because he's gonna realize you need to take some time, brother, and you need to breathe because you're mad. I recently went to the Karen Brady's Women in Tech and Business. And it was Women in Business and Tech, I don't know which way around. It was at the Excel Centre in London. And a young lady who I mentor, but unofficially. So I'd shared it prior to the event. And she said she didn't know how to kind of go to the course because obviously she was working, and there was black women in tech as well, and a previous date, and she couldn't go. And I said, sis, first of all, you don't ask these people, you tell them. This is part of your CPD points. Ha! You see, Oyibo people, I've learned from them. CPD points is progression, innit? Those CPD points, they don't come from me going to work just alone. No. CPD points comes from courses you go to, especially when that learning and development budget is not extending to you. You have to go out and find your own CPD points, and you tell them, you don't ask them. You say, this is this course. And for me personally, you see these events like the Women in Business and Tech or whatever, I don't want the workplace to pay for me, because I don't want you to feel that you have access to tap into that. Do you understand? I'm doing it for me and my CPD points. So I will say, oh, I'm taking today is study leave. Go and look at your workplace policies, please. You have these days that you never get to take because they don't want to extend that learning and development. Now you want to do your own learning and development. You're not asking permission. Absolutely not. You just send an email. The Karen Bridget, I will be taking XY day off. I can see from XY policy that employees are allowed to take therefore I'll be taking this as part of my CPD points and further progression. Please note that I have not received any further academic encouragement for progression within this role, and therefore I am also in addition to waiting for opportunity, obviously you're not waiting for opportunities within the organisation for learning and development, I'm also seeking my own. You're not asking permission, you're telling them. Let them tell you no, then they have to ask you, then they have to justify to you why your learning and development is not a priority. And if it's not a priority, how are you encouraging me to stay in this job? Yeah? How are you encouraging me in this role? And if you're not, then are you trying to manage me out? Therefore, listen, we could go round and round, you know. But what's most important here is you making clear to them and you telling them rather than asking for permission, giving people opportunity to say no. When there are certain events that I had, you should go to them. If you don't get anything, there's a lesson to learn in these type of events. Women in tech, black women in tech, if you're in tech or you're interested as a black woman, you should be going to these things, especially during Black History Month. Let somebody tell me in Black History Month I'm not going to Black Women in Tech. Yeah, and I will write it there, Black Women in Tech, presented or brought to us by Black History Month. I will even find the email that they sent during the pandemic about supporting Black. I will find it though. Some of you need to understand that being a statue in a corner, I'm sorry, you're going to gather dust. If you don't want I don't want any problem, well then that's fine. But if you want to advance yourself, unfortunately for certain people it's a problem for them, and therefore your need to progress and want to do better disturbs their peace. So your choice is: do you throw in the towel of progression, or do you continue to push and ensure that you get that progression for your own success and your own development? Bearing in mind, no one's willing to die 10 years in one company. God forbid, bad thing. You should be able to progress and take all that knowledge and go somewhere else and add to that knowledge and grow. I'm sitting here telling you, by way of an example, if I didn't go into contracting and progress via the projects and experiences through contracting, I don't know where I would be, because I was a problem for a lot of the very key organisations I worked for, because I was advancing quite quickly. I was wanting to progress. And unfortunately for black women, where we are not represented on a senior level, they don't want me there. Because also as well, they don't want anybody asking questions. It's bad enough that you're working for certain organisations that are old white male boys club. Talk less of them now having a black woman in senior position. They don't want that. So I kind of felt like my progress was always very stunted, or get to a certain point and it just plateaued. As soon as I became a contractor, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it for you. My trajectory was mad. Like it just went like, whoop, you know? And now, in the position I am, I don't see any other way I could have got here if I didn't contract. And that is one of the benefits of contracting, is that you can climb up the ranks pretty quickly based on all the knowledge that you acquire quite quickly. Because remember, when you're going in there, you're seen as a subject matter expert. And then I've worked on some very high profile projects, like really high profile. You know, the stuff that you sign at NDAs for and you can never mention them again. Do you understand? Like, but I would never have been afforded that opportunity if I did not take a risk on myself and I did not believe in myself enough to then go out and just get those opportunities, because they were never going to be in the organisations I was wedded to or contract as a perm. It just wasn't that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you can't progress as a perm. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there's a lot more politics when you're a permanent member of staff. And for me, especially because of how I work and I'm quite free-spirited, there is absolutely no way that I could have been a perm. I'm just not cut out that way. And don't get me wrong, maybe like as I get older, you know, I may decide to go perm, but the bar will be really high. And I've had to now think about, how do I maintain staying a contractor? Like, you know, I have very good unique selling points, but how do I continue to maintain those unique selling points? And you see, that's the other side of contracting, is you are now in charge of your own learning and development. Like, you have to be on top of it, because you don't have a perm structure around you where you now get to ask questions or tap into. Do you understand? And some organisations don't even have a learning and development budget, to be fair. And if you're a perm and that's your position, you should now be asking yourself how you progress from an educational standpoint. And that means you have to invest in yourself. You do. You know, I've done it. Like, I did my law degree, I went to law school, I did my master's in law, I did my level 4 diploma in SIPS. It was hard, especially when you're having to work and study. But then if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be sitting here now talking to you about some of my achievements. And even now at 39, I'm still thinking, okay, how do I add to those CPD points? What does my learning and development look like? And there is going to be an episode where I talk about learning and development, like what I have done today, because there are so many things that I have planned that I have to achieve. Because I personally, for me, my success and how I've defined success also is balanced with money, and that's okay. You know, money's, because for me, I'm not in love with my career. I'm just really good at it, and I had to maximize my earnings. And I now am just focused on staying a cut above the rest. So not just your normal, you know, run-of-the-mill commercial contract managers or commercial contract consultants. I'm not interested in that. I'm not into mediocrity or just, no. I need to be different, so that in an interview I stand out, but also from a seasoned professional perspective I stand out. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about education, and when we're talking about advancing yourself, it's also being able to invest in the education and being able to draw upon it in interviews. And it's important. The young lady in her email to me, she says, "Thank you for all the work you do in protecting black women in professional settings through education." So there's the education of Toya Talks, and sharing dilemmas, and sharing you know, my experiences, and giving you like the blueprint. There's that education, but there's also the education where you actually have to go in and do some work. Okay, studying, like, you know, examinations, however they look. And I'm not going to sit here and say studying is for everybody, because it's not. But there comes a point where if you want to enter a new tax bracket, you have to do something. And finding what you're passionate about is important. I have an episode called Walking in the Wilderness, and I talk about sometimes not knowing what your passions are and how I found mine. And I kind of fell into my industry. There's no hard and fast rule about what you're supposed to do, but I think you should actually like what you do, or actually be good at it at least. So another dilemma we had. So this is a bit of a long one, but I have to read it to you because I can't abbreviate it. It's just one of those ones. Okay, so it's called "She's Disliked Me All Along." Confrontation ? Hi Toya, I hope you're well. I would like your advice on how to manage a tricky relationship with a white female colleague. I'm working for a company where I'm in a standalone position, which is client and customer facing. I passed my probation a week ago, yay, and though I don't see this company as a long-term employer, I can proudly say in the time I've been here so far, 6 months, I have created impact and brought value. I'm having a relational issue with one of my key colleagues. Let's call her Katerina. I say key because though we work in different targets and objectives, there are some elements of overlap. And plainly speaking, when I'm really busy and need support, my boss sends me to her, which historically I believed we've had enough positive rapport and felt comfortable to lean on her for said support. Now, since we started working together, we have weekly check-ins where we share ideas. I offer my support for her work and vice versa. We have the odd laugh and giggle. Now, she's a white English woman. We are similar ages, however, we're quite different. So outside of work, we wouldn't necessarily be friends. However, for the purposes of work, we get along fine. Or so I thought. I made a slight misstep recently, which I acknowledge. Whilst I don't think it's a big deal personally, and it wouldn't have offended me, I can see how it rubbed her up the wrong way. So that's the introspection. We love a bit of introspection, don't we? A senior person on our team, not my line manager, more of a dotted line, let's call her Nicole, asked me to organise a project wash-up meeting whereby everyone on the team should come together to review the success of a recent project and how we can improve for future projects. It was difficult to find a solid hour in everyone's diaries as 6 people, including Katrina, but I was able to find one. Now, on the day of the scheduled meeting, the senior person, Nicole, was sick, so we had to reschedule. It was important that I find a date sooner rather than later as a new project was starting. So I managed to find an hour window. However, it overlapped with another one of Katrina's meetings by 15 minutes. Now, the meeting was with another senior person, let's call her Chloe. Chloe works in another city and team, but she's turned into a bit of a mentor for me, advises me on projects, shares resources, and even helped me prepare for this project wash-up meeting. So I emailed Katrina's diary invite with Chloe and let her know I needed to reschedule the meeting as set by Nicole. And would it be okay to change her meeting time by 15 minutes to allow for this project wash-up meeting? I think it's a reasonable request. However, the issue is I sent this request to everyone on the diary invite, which included Chloe. So she sent it to Katrina, asking her to reschedule her meeting, but it included everyone on the diary invite and Chloe. So the offence is that I was publicly asking her to change her meeting to make room for mine, which she did not appreciate. She then emailed me the following email. Hi, XYZ. I've just seen this. Going forward, can I ask that you please not email individuals, internal or external, that I'm meeting with to rearrange my diary meetings or priorities. Sharing access to diaries with colleagues is based on a level of trust and understanding that you respect someone's time and relationships with others, and I don't feel the below displays this. Happy to discuss tomorrow if needed. Ooh, passive aggressive. Katrina is passive aggressive. Oh, damn. I don't think that my action warranted this level of response. However, I acknowledged how it made her feel and I apologised via email. My intention was also to apologise when I saw her in the office. However, I had a meeting with my line manager. We have the same line manager, by the way, and he hinted to me that he knew something had happened between me and Katrina. So I told him what happened and said it was not a big deal, which he also agreed and said, you both have very different personalities. It happens sometimes. It's just about apologising and keeping it moving. I agreed and we changed the topic. Once I realised that she told my boss, I was over it and decided not to apologise in person. Email is enough. And can I just say, I actually agree with this young lady. The email is enough. You see, if she hadn't gone to the manager, fine, I will apologise in person too, but you went to the manager like a little telltale tip. Since this incident 1 month ago, now her attitude towards me has changed completely. She cuts me off during weekly one-to-ones, has a patronising tone which she has generally with other colleagues, but not generally with me. picks and chooses which of my emails she wants to respond to, ignoring my team's messages, which I assure I don't message her often. She has also made her diary calendar private, so we are unable to view the content of her events. That is so passive aggressive. Damn. Now, whilst I'm not personally hurt by this behaviour, I'm so close to cussing her out, and I really do not want to do that at work. I feel like this pettiness is impacting my or our ability to work together productively. So I went to Nicole, senior to both me and Katrina. She also hired me to ask her advice. I kept it general at first and just said I'm struggling with a work colleague, the relationship is strained, and asked for advice. She then asked me if I wouldn't mind sharing who it was. When I told her it was Katrina, she said she wasn't surprised because Katrina has been telling her about her issues with me. She even confidentially shared that Katrina was offended that I once made a comment when I first joined the company that made her feel as though I questioned the value of the contributions that she brings to the organisation. She then said, we all know Katrina can be quite prickly, but I think it may be because she's had negative experience in previous workplaces, and I also think she might be dealing with personal issues outside of work. I'm not making excuses for her, but just so you're aware. That's what this lady's mentor said. And this is what pisses me off. White women, they're always going through something. If they're having a divorce, her cat dies, her cat has a fur ball in her mouth, she has previous work experiences. We all have. I mean, if this black woman is to tell her experience as a black woman, would that be considered as a reason why she herself is allowed to behave unprofessionally? No, it's not. But when a white woman is going through something, we all have to just understand. Mate, I'm shocked. So all this time I thought we were fine, and she's been harboring this feeling of offence in her heart and even divulged it to someone senior on the team. Nicole advised that I should talk to Katrina and encourage her to share any feelings she might be having. I responded and said, personally, I don't feel safe having that discussion with her independently because I don't trust that we would have a conversation based on good faith and a positive outcome. She suggested we hold a mediation conversation and offered to be present as we hash it out. She asked me to think about it and get back to her. 1 week later, she checked in and implied this meeting had to happen because me and Katrina are a million miles apart, and as a team, it's important we are on the same page, which basically means we are gonna have this team meeting whether you like it or not. So I have obliged. The meeting will be next week. I suggested to her that the meeting should be over a coffee or a drink, so it's not formal and less pressurized. At this point, I quite regret opening up to Nicole because I really don't know what to expect from this conversation. I have a feeling it will turn into, okay, you need to apologise to Katrina for how you made her feel, without acknowledging that Katrina is just an unprofessional person and my experience of her too. I just care about the work. Do you have any advice? Am I in the wrong? How would I approach this conversation? Could this jeopardise my role? Thank you so much for taking the time to read this, and I look forward to hopefully hearing your opinion or advice. So, I went back and this is what I said to this young lady. Hi, I hope you're well. I hope this arrives on time. Firstly, I want to commend you and give you your flowers. You have handled this issue very well. In fact, you have handled it to an extent of how I would have. But you have to now be strategic. You are not the problem. I wrote this in capitals. Here we have white fragility at play and your colleague Katrina and HR pandering to her. So I didn't mean HR, I meant her mentor pandering to her. Sis, do not apologise for anything because you have done nothing wrong. I think your approach needs to be, I would like us to continue to enjoy the working collaborative relationship we have done, and I would like to clear up any misunderstanding. After this informal meeting, I need you to send a brief summary email about how you both have agreed to move forward and you would like to continue to uphold a healthy working environment. I would also like you to note 3 things you are committing to encourage a healthy working relationship with Katrina. I say this because this allows you to use this email later if things continue down a negative path. You can then show you have gone over and above to find harmony and committed yourself to ensuring you are taking the lead in finding a resolution and drawing a line under it. Nicole is not your friend, and whilst you regret opening up, at least you see everyone for who and what they are. Your approach needs to make Katrina look like the issue that she is. Keep it light, no deep and meaningful. Let her spill her guts and be factual and give examples of her behaviour and bring it back to creating a toxic and awkward environment. Yes, use words like that to allow her to understand that this has come about as a result of her behaviour. Katrina has shown you her hand, and nothing worse than a sly fake colleague, but you see her as she is now. You just have to be careful and strategic. I hope this helps. Let me know how it goes. So then the young lady then emailed me back and she said, thank you so much. Your email has indeed arrived on time. It's really reassuring to read that you would have handled this similarly. I have read everything you've said and taken note, especially on the point of keeping my points light, coming to during the informal chat and keeping it to the facts. This is definitely a case of white fragility, and I have to be careful to not pander to it while still being diplomatic. I will definitely keep you updated once this has happened. Appreciate you a lot. Have a blessed week ahead. Speak soon. Now, this young lady, I think, she's dealing with this really well. I think this is a classic case, as I said in my email to her, of white fragility. I mean, this is one thing I understand. You have a great working relationship. Your colleague made a mistake. You have now locked up your calendar. You're going around telling everybody you've got a problem with her, everybody but the person. And the thing that I cannot stand about this white female fragility, is they go around using that fragility to amass support. And that's what's happened here. Every person this young black queen has spoken to about this situation and spoken about to find a resolution already knows, because Katrina has been going around on a campaign tour of sympathy. That's what she's doing. And the worst part of it is, I think that the worst part of this is that when this young black queen spoke to Nicole, who's like a mentor, it went from, I suggest maybe doing this, to you need to do this, you're miles apart, which tells me further conversations are being had. And this Katrina woman is the type that will set you up. And she'll set you up in such a way, and then as she's setting you up, she's sowing seeds of doubt and getting people to now see you in a negative light. And this is the reason why I said it's really important that how she approaches this conversation, especially with someone there. And it's all about making Katrina look mad. You see, there's a way you can make somebody look mad. I'm not saying too much, but saying enough to let them know that, number one, I'm just trying to find a solution here. You're spilling your guts deep and meaningful, but the reality is here, you are the reason why we're having a hostile work environment. And then I would actually call her bluff, and I would say, it's also been brought to my attention that when I first started here, that you have said to somebody that I made you feel da-da-da-da-da. You've never mentioned this to me. In fact, if this was an issue, we could have actually started off by cultivating an open, transparent relationship, by understanding how to deal with conflict resolution. But because you kept this inside and shared it with everybody else, now there is another issue. You've put both issues together. And what happened is, when you put both issues together, it becomes a problem for you because you haven't told the person who has offended you, i.e. me. That's the kind of tone you need to take. And also, I think you see, for me personally, I think that you have to use provocative words. Like, it seems that you're really fragile. You know, you need to say these words. It seems that you're really fragile. Could you just let me know? So that people know that it's a her problem, not a you problem. Again, it's the strategic approach to dealing with fragility that makes that person look mad and makes you look like somebody who's trying to find a solution. Now, I always talk about follow-up emails after meetings because everyone's opinion is different, especially when you agree on something. I swear, white fragility has a way of rewriting history in a way that doesn't. You will even be surprised that you're part of that history. And you need to write 3 things that you're committing to create a healthier way forward. And the reason I'm saying that is because it shows your commitment to find a solution. It's not about you, promising something. No, it's you. You need to show that you are showing a commitment to draw a line under this trivial matter, and that if it continues, it's now because this one is deliberately trying to create a hostile environment. You have to be strategic about how you deal with white fragility. And I was really happy when I got her email because she understood what I was talking about. It was less about say this, but it's more about how to strategically deal with white fragility when it's being weaponized in such an aggressive manner as to now recruit other senior members of staff. And what she's doing is laying the foundation, to sabotage this girl and basically do her out of a job, if you want me to be honest, because that's how white fragility works. Do you know how mad it is that somebody made a mistake? You've sent an email, you've said how you felt, and then you put your calendar on private. Somebody you work with that needs access to your calendar. So you're deliberately and willfully creating an environment whereby you're tripping somebody up. So now when somebody wants to put a meeting in your diary, you're really going to have issues and clashes now because no one can see what meetings to avoid. Katrina is mad. That's just it. Mad. And I say mad because I don't understand how you move forward with somebody you work so closely to if you're going to be so fragile. Some people need to be offered therapy to deal with their fragility. That's how I feel. And it doesn't go above my head that this young lady has had to be clear that is a white woman. Because it provides context, isn't it? It does. Because I feel as black women, we're not afforded this to be dealt with like eggs. Oh my God, we've got to do, she feels like this. Oh, it must be because she's going through a divorce. Her cat got its tail stuck in the door. There's always something that excuses their behaviour. But no one ever thinks about the person who receives the behaviour. Like this woman, this black queen. So hopefully the advice has helped, and hopefully it helps you all. And fingers crossed we get some feedback on some of the advice that we're given, see what resolution, see what happens, because it also helps us move forward in situations that we have, and also we take the learnings and the lessons learned for any experiences we may have in the future. So this draws the dilemma episode to an end. And I will encourage you, if you have a work-related or life-related dilemma, please email hello@toytalks.com. I will do my very best to help you. But also as well, let me know what outcome you're hoping to achieve. It helps to shape the advice I give you. And also your anonymity will always be protected. If you share something with me that I think could kind of reveal who you are, I will just change it up. Because again, this is a safe space where you should feel free to kind of share and also seek advice and help. And what you share here in your dilemmas helps people who are in similar dilemmas, or somebody who is in a situation but doesn't know how to handle it. And by sharing, we're sharing that knowledge. And I appreciate each and every one of you who sends in a dilemma. And also those of you who further seek to invest in your learning by accessing the masterclasses on the toytalks.com website. We have the CV masterclass, the interview, passing your probation, maternity masterclass. We have the redundancy masterclass, the interim consulting and freelance masterclass, and we have so much more. It's a catalogue of masterclasses that support the podcast, but more importantly, they give you the tools that you need in certain areas, especially in the world of work, and of course in your development as an individual. So hopefully you go and access those. I will be adding some more stuff to the masterclasses, like quizzes and things like that. And I'm hoping to schedule a webinar. I also want to take this opportunity to say that I was considering doing a Toya Talks live this year. However, I had a child, so I couldn't do it. However, in 2024, it's something that I'm looking to do, another Toya Talks live. The last one was in 2018, and we had booked and sold tickets. However, for another one. However, the pandemic happened, and I refunded everyone's money back, and it just couldn't happen. I think now is the time for a Toy Talks Live 2024. Keep your ears to the ground, honey, because it will be limited tickets, in limited numbers, and by the grace of God, it will happen in 2024. And it will be nice to kind of come back and do a live event. There's so much that's happened between 2018 to now, especially with how the podcast has evolved and developed, and the content that we've been able to create here on the podcast. But also as well, I think it will be important from a live perspective to kind of record it, so then I can use it as a podcast as well, or take key takeaways from a live event and put it into a podcast. Something I'm still throwing around the idea and just kind of figuring that out. But I say this all to say Toya Talks Live 2024 coming soon. If you want to follow me on social media, my social media handles, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks podcast Instagram page is Toya_Talks. If you want to follow me on TikTok, my handle is Toya Washington. The birthplace of Toya Talks is, of course, Snapchat. My handle is Toya Washington. And I am on Threads, Toya_Washington, and X, formerly known as TikTok. But I hardly, formerly known as Twitter. I hardly use Twitter, to be fair, but those are all my handles. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment. If you listen on Spotify, you're able to share your comments about the episode, and any other podcast platform that you listen to the podcast on, please leave your comments and your feedback. I really do appreciate it. Unfortunately, there's some feedback I can't respond to. However, I do read all your feedback, and I do really, really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the podcast. Make sure you kind of share the podcast, share episodes. Maybe you've got a favourite episode or episodes. Keep those conversations moving in those group chats. And please be rest assured that this is not only a safe space, but this is an opportunity for us to kind of share, learn and grow. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.